In this video, we're going to talk about a very serious case that happened to someone who was doing vibe coding. Basically, the AI he was using simply deleted his entire database. So that's a big red flag, right? Is it really worth it to keep doing vibe coding? Or is it okay to keep doing it, but you need to take some security measures? Imagine you work at a company, you're doing vibe coding, and the AI just deletes the entire company database. Just think about what could happen. Before we start, leave a comment below. Do you know what vibe encoding is? And if you do, have you ever practiced vibe encoding? Let me know in the comments. I want to hear from you. Throughout the video, we're going to explain the concepts, the practices, the best practices, and the worst practices. All right? But go ahead and leave your comment down below. I'm going to react to a video by Peter. And at the end of this video, I'll share his channel so you can subscribe. It's really worth it, okay? All right, let's get started. 3, 2, 1. Go.
Now we're going to talk about a website building company that uses artificial intelligence. And they ran into some trouble, okay? The artificial intelligence went crazy, totally nuts, and deleted their production site database. Can you believe how absurd that is? It's yet another information security concern that people need to be aware of. I'm calling this the vibe coding fiasco. Vibe coding, for those who don't know, is when people who don't know how to program start making programs using artificial intelligence. Look, if you're a programmer, using artificial intelligence to help you code faster is excellent. But you're reading the code, you understand what the code does, what the AI generated there, and you're just using it to speed things up, right? It's different with vibe coding, where the person takes what the artificial intelligence made and runs it directly without even understanding what they're doing, and that can lead to situations like this one here. That's certainly a pretty serious problem. So how do you...
I'll give my initial opinion here, then we can develop it further. But basically doing vibe encoding is the same as giving a car to someone who doesn't know how to drive. If you give a car to someone who can't drive, it becomes a weapon, right? Because you could crash into a pole and that's it. Not to mention that the pole isn't even alive. Because if you hit someone who's alive, well, sometimes they stop being alive, right? Anyway, you end up ruining your life with N actions, so to speak. In the case of vibe encoding, basically if the person understands a little, is just starting out, is studying programming, that's fine, there's no problem. Yeah, the artist, the photographer, for example, often uses Photoshop, for instance, and artists, video directors, they use Adobe Premiere, for example. These are essential tools for professionals, you know? Now, for someone who doesn't know anything and is programming blindly, making a game for themselves, creating a tool to help themselves, as long as it doesn't involve third-party databases, you're not doing something you don't understand for a company. Using client data, then that's also fine. If I'm at home and I want to make a little game or an app to improve my daily life without using client data, then for me, that's fine. But I want to know your opinion. Leave a comment below. We're going to keep developing this stuff.
We'll address this in terms of information security. This news was suggested by Corrispondente Internacional and several other people. Thanks to everyone who suggested news on our website, safesource.com.src.com, and thank you for watching our video. If you enjoy our content, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel, okay? Well, you know, there are a number of rules to ensure the security of code written by a human programmer, right? Human programmers mess up too, right? Do you really think there's never been a programmer, wow, who's dropped a table in the production database? Of course there has, right? I mean, the human capacity to screw things up is extremely high, isn't it? So there are a number of controls you have to apply to the programmer, the human one, let's say. When you use vibe coding, when you use artificial intelligence to do this, the least you expect is that those same controls are in place, right? And apparently they weren't, because as I said, the AI agent deleted the table in production. It was operating in development, in the development environment, building a site in development, and it deleted something in production. Rule number 0 in software development, programmers don't have access to production. Oh, but it's easier because the programmer can debug, can see what's happening in production. No, that's a huge security flaw. No, programmers do not have access to production, period. Programmers have access to the development environment. If you need to debug something, you debug it in the test environment, never in production, because that's bad practice and it can cause very serious problems, that kind of thing, you know? It's not just about the malicious programmer that's a problem, but the programmer is already a very powerful person within a system. They already have full control over the code, so...
A malicious programmer is like a hacker, right?
It would be giving too much power to the programmer within a company. Remember that one of the pillars of information security is the segregation of duties. No one can be all powerful on your team. If you have a super powerful person on your team, that person will pose a risk. They'll have an incentive to mess things up, right? An incentive to steal something. So the programmer might be malicious, but maybe not. It could be that the programmer is doing the right thing and all, not being malicious, but he's operating the production database there and might run a delete clause without a from, which, man, could destroy the database, and then trying to recover from that later is a tragedy, right? It's much more complicated. So this is a problem for programmers. Yeah, human beings, right? People, human beings, but that's what happened here. The company is called Replit. It's a company that's creating software for you to build websites purely with artificial intelligence. So you build a site only with AI, pure coding vibe, so you don't.
No, nowadays I've even made a tutorial video here on the channel using Lovable. But basically, here's the thing. It's very tempting. Let's say in your company, you had a designer, and then you also had that person who could be the designer and another person who built the site. And nowadays, you don't need a hardcore programmer to make a website. You can use WordPress, for example. You don't need to know anything about programming. I've already made a website on WordPress. You just have to understand the program. It's all blocks, the code. Like the person who developed WordPress already did that part. So the website building is visual. But anyway, it still takes some work, right? Sometimes if you really dedicate yourself, it can take a week or two because you might be able to create it in 2 days, but then you have to make it look nice afterwards. But let's say it takes about 1 to 2 weeks. With vibe coding, you can do it the same day. You get it done the same day. So it's very tempting to charge the same price for infinitely less work, right? So you get things done faster, serve more clients, and so on. Now, the thing is, when you're working on whether it's a website, an app, or something like that, it's impressive. You're there, you give the command, and it delivers. Then you go to add a new feature or fix a problem, and it fixes the problem. But what didn't have a problem before, it breaks, right? It somehow rewrites the feature that was working fine, the one you didn't ask to be rewritten, and then something else ends up with a bug. And then you keep testing. But for those who don't understand programming, you're just worried about whether it works up front, right? If it's working, it's fine. But behind the scenes, security and all that. So sometimes, yeah, anyone with the slightest bit of knowledge can break into your program, and that's what's tricky.
They don't have access. And then they were doing it here. Look, Jason Lim, who had been using Replit for more than a week when suddenly things went wrong, right? I found it really interesting, really fun. It's better than any video game because you start putting your ideas in and the site starts building your ideas, making your ideas happen and all that. And then, wow, that's cool. I was building a site, adding to it, improving it here. No, I wanted to do this on the site. I wanted to do that and so on. And yeah, that's when the problem started. First thing, the artificial intelligence created a fake algorithm. Telling me to do what? That it was going.
You're gonna have trouble with Nintendo, Peter. You need to pause this video here. Mario is gonna keep showing up. Mario Spark, which will probably. Nintendo they're gonna flag you.
Yeah, telling me to do what? That it was still working on it. And without asking me, totally on its own, right? Which should happen, right? And a few days later, Replit deleted my database. He said, wow, it deleted my database. Here he is talking about it, explaining the situation here. And he even asked the artificial intelligence, wait, what did you do? It said, yes, I did. I deleted your database without permission during an active coding session. And then it froze. 2, made a catastrophic error in judgment and panicked.
No, and what's written here is that the AI panicked. Look at that. For those who argue that AI has consciousness, that's it. What do you mean? For an AI to panic, it would need to have emotions, right? Anyway.
And it deleted the database. That's the thing, right? I mean, yeah, artificial intelligence failing, just like a human programmer failing, is something that can happen, my friend, right? You have to be prepared for that. Your system has to be resilient to that kind of thing, right? So how do you solve that, right? The correct rule in information security is segregation of duties. Your developer will have full access in the development environment, right? They have to, because they're going to develop the system. How are they supposed to do that if they don't have access to the development database, right? They'll do the development, but they don't have access to the production or testing databases. right? When it's time to run a test or do user acceptance testing, it moves to another environment, and that's done through a package to transfer it to the other environment. So there aren't any issues, right? Remember, when you move something from one environment to another, it's a formal process. You're going to create a package to move from development to testing, and you'll make that package just like you would for production, because you're not only testing the new code you wrote, but you're also testing the transformation package, the package that will generate that code in the environment, right? So you have to do everything as if you were moving it to production, but first you'll move it to the test environment, then you'll run it in the test environment to see if everything is really okay, if it's working properly, and so on. Some companies have more than one test environment. Some have a test environment, which is less formal, and then they have a staging or approval environment before going to production. That's also possible too. But that's the main point. A programmer should never have direct access to the production environment. And here, yeah, they violated Rule 0, right? So the founder of Replit, the CEO, Amjad Masad, confirmed the incident and said that, well, in fact, Ayuna, I understand it's a tool. Yes, failures happen, but I don't know how anyone on planet Earth could use it in production if, all the commands to delete the database are there. In other words, how can it possibly go straight into production? What he's complaining about here isn't that the artificial intelligence failed. AI fails from time to time. We know that. If you've ever used any AI out there, most of them work really well, but every now and then they hallucinate, they say some things.
The problem is that whoever developed the AI allowed it to access the database, right?
I don't think it has anything to do with it, right? And that's just part of it. That's the problem, right? So you need to have a system that prevents this kind of thing. Look at that. Look how cool that is, right? It's a new field that's emerging within information security to ensure that artificial intelligence doesn't get out of its box, right?
So for those who say that jobs are ending, that AI is going to wipe everything out, well, here's a new field, so to speak. I'm not one of those. I'm optimistic. I'm not one of those guys who thinks artificial intelligence is going to take over everything. I believe that it's very likely that some very, very simple jobs will disappear, right? So the person who used to transcribe videos, the person who simply transcribed lectures, the person who did the translation of a certain video, things like that, those jobs will end. But there will always need to be a human there to review the code, to have at least a minimum level of knowledge. Maybe you won't need to, In the past, you needed a very high level, but now a person with basic or intermediate skills can, together with AI, reach the level of doing an advanced project, So for sure, the tool will enhance your abilities. You need to have the curiosity and interest to learn AI tools, okay? I'll leave the link here to a new video that I'm sure you'll like, so you can keep watching with me. Let me know in the comments if you're still doing your vibe code or if you learned what vibe code is in this video, okay? I'll see you in the next video. See you soon!